Soul fans respect this man, and his breakout single from 1966 is rightfully considered as a timeless masterpiece. Despite his early success, this singer never made it to the soul major leagues. Despite his tragic passing, this guy left a legacy of soulful music that still resonates with audiences today. The centerpiece of today's video is all about Darrell Banks. Before we start, let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push the notification bell to be sure you won't miss on any more uploads. Now without further ado, let's cue that intro. Born Darrell Eubanks on July 25, 1937 in Mansfield, Ohio. He was the illegitimate son of a 27-year-old Kentuckian and a 17-year-old girl from Mansfield, Ohio. Darrell Eubanks, who later became Darrell Banks, was given his mother's surname. A child herself, the mom left the newborn in the care of her parents. A Mansfield Banks childhood home is still a semi-industrial town surrounded by endless acres of farmland dotted with produce stands. Banks grew up in a sky obscured by smoke from a nearby plant. Banks discovered his voice here thanks to a local church choir. Banks' voice was as gruff, gritty, rich, and gospel-influenced as any of his southern counterparts. After high school, Banks married Beverly K. Simon, a white lady. An interracial marriage was obviously socially inappropriate at the time. They have 2 children, a son and a girl. The couple stayed together for several years until splitting up in the mid-1960s. The children remained with their mother while Banks came and went from their lives. Banks moved to Buffalo, New York to be near his father. Though he sang in and around Mansfield, it was in Buffalo that Banks' recording career began. While working with Buffalo-based bands and singing groups, Banks met Doc Watson, the proprietor of the Sticky Dive Club Revival. Doc had contacts in the Motor City and steered Banks there. Watson connected Banks to Don Davis, a Detroit music producer, and his collaborator LeBaron Taylor. The latter two had founded the Detroit-based production business Solid Hitbound Inc. Hitbound controlled several record labels, including Grooveville, Solid Hitbound Records, and Revival. This stable of labels and its production firm produced the soul sounds of the Parliaments, J.J. Barnes, Edwin Starr, and most recently Darrell Banks. Banks recorded his breakout first song, Open the Door to Your Heart, in Detroit's United Sound Studio. Open the door to your heart. Open the door. The song, originally titled Baby Walk Right In, was co-written by Banks and Donnie Elbert in Buffalo. Elbert, an R&B hitmaker in his own right, was perplexed to see that he was not acknowledged on the single's first release. His name did, however, appear on subsequent pressings, though the reasons are unclear. Elbert finally earned the royalties promised to him. The song scaled the US charts, peaking at number 2 on the R&B charts and number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100. His second single, Somebody Somewhere Needs You, hit number 34 on the R&B charts and number 55 on the pop charts later that year. Moving to Atco Records, he released the singles Here Come the Tears, Always Before I Reach the End, I Hang Down My, I've Got That Feeling, and I know that our heart can be, Angel Baby, Don't Ever Leave Me, Leave me, I'm crazy, out of my mind, my little angel baby, and Look Into the Eyes of a Fool in 1967, none of which charted. Think all this time, her love was really true. Atco also published an album featuring his Revival hits. I Wanna Go Home was released by Atco subsidiary Cotillion Records under the Atlantic Records banner. But never leave her again. I wanna go home. Banks then signed with Stax Records, which issued his second album in 1969 as well as 2 additional non-charting singles. These will be Banks' last recordings. On February 24th, 1970, off-duty Detroit officer Aaron Bullock shot the singer in the neck and chest. Here's what occurred. Marjorie Bozeman had attempted to end her relationship with Banks, but the singer would have none of it. He drove to her residence in Northwest Detroit and discovered Bozeman had vanished. He waited. When Bozeman eventually came, Bullock accompanied her. According to a March 7, 1970 report in the Michigan Chronicle, Banks approached Bozeman, grabbed her, and stated, "We have to talk." According to the report, Bullock announced himself as a cop and ordered Banks to release the woman. Instead, Banks allegedly drew a firearm and aimed it at the officer. Bullock reportedly ducked, pulled his revolver, and fired one shot, piercing Banks' neck. The altercation stopped nearly as quickly as it began, and Banks perished an hour later at Detroit's New Grace Hospital. Because Banks allegedly drew first, no charges were filed against Bullock. The first public notice of his passing occurred in the Michigan Chronicle on March 7, 1970. Issues always arise on the streets on the prior Wednesday, which in this case was March 4th. As a result, Darrell passed 8 days before the official announcement was made. Darrell Banks may have been from the North, but his voice and soul style were entirely Southern. He has some grit in his teeth. He isn't quite the preacher that Otis is, nor is he as emotional as Carr, but he is just as effective. Darrell Banks' story is another terrible example of a bright career cut short. Now, before we go, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite song from Darrell Banks?